Yeah, this is worst case scenario, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Burrow is officially out for the season. We were mentioning this last night on the live stream in terms of just a raw instant reaction. We were saying, okay, well, with Burrow, there's the outside chance that even if he were to just miss a few weeks, the Bengals aren't really playing for much. Do they just shut him down? Looks like no, the injury was more serious. Looks like they're shutting him down rest of season regardless. And now this puts us in a very difficult spot, right? Because we have to figure out, how are we going to value Ja'Marr Chase? How are we going to value Joe Mixon? And how are we going to value T. Higgins going forward? This is going to be a team that's not competitive. This is a team that is essentially out of it. They have no real reason to go out there and push as hard as they can to try to win right now. And if we go through and pull up what we have here with the flockfantasy.com community rankings to get a sense of where these guys are falling at this point, keep in mind, this is very much just an instant overreaction. And that, dear God, it looks like Ja'Marr Chase has fallen way too far. How the hell can y'all say Ja'Marr Chase has fallen this far? Ja'Marr Chase is now being valued as a wide receiver 2, it looks like. While I agree, I think that Ja'Marr Chase is someone that we have to lower our expectations with. Clearly, we saw last night that it's not going to be great with no Joe Burrow. This offense is not going to be good. You probably will eventually get T. Higgins back in here. Realistically, if I'm going to be looking at what we have with someone like Ja'Marr Chase, I still think that this is a wide receiver that baseline is Garrett Wilson, right? And that's absolute worst case scenario here with Ja'Marr Chase. And that you're looking at an option that is going to dominate the targets on his team, but you are just going to see a very low floor, very low ceiling in comparison if we had good quarterback play. I'm going to be viewing Ja'Marr Chase as a low-end wide receiver 1 rest of season. Maybe if we see continued disappointment, maybe if Ja'Marr Chase goes out there and has another game where he does pretty much nothing, we can move him down to being that low-end, that mid-wide receiver 2. But for now, I think that you have to say Ja'Marr Chase is still a mid-wide receiver 1. Like, let me ask y'all this real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Who would y'all rather have here? Would y'all rather have Chris Olave or Ja'Marr Chase? Please let me know in the live chat. Chris Olave or Ja'Marr Chase? Spam the chat. Let's see what y'all are saying. Chase, Olave, Chase, Olave, Chase. So it does look like most people are going to go Chase over Olave still here. I think that's how I would have it as well. Now let's bump up a little bit. Are you going to go with Davante Adams or Ja'Marr Chase? Davante Adams or Ja'Marr Chase, ladies and gentlemen, because right now, if you look at the community rankings on flockfantasy.com, you do have Davante Adams hovering around wide receiver 9. You have Adams at wide receiver 9. Chase, Adams, Adams, because Adams is in a horrendous offense as well, right? Chase, Adams. So it does look like that is more so split. I would say that I'm probably going to go with Ja'Marr Chase in that instance as well. In that all these wide receivers that we're talking about, they have bad quarterback play. This isn't something that's new here, right? While it may be even worse in Cincinnati, Ja'Marr Chase is still an elite talent. He's still incredibly young as well. So I'll probably have Chase hovering as that low-end wide receiver 1. I'm definitely going to have Kupp over Chase, but I'll probably have Chase in there at about wide receiver 9 in our rest of season rankings. Joe Mixon takes a hit. If we are looking at Joe Mixon right now in the flockfantasy.com community rankings, He is currently at RB9. Let me just go ahead and pull this up so y'all can see these, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, these are free on flogfantasy.com. If y'all ever want to go check them out. Every time that you go to flogfantasy.com, pull up the rankings page, it's going to prompt you with 4 guys. It's going to go, okay, rank them how you'd want them. We're probably going to go Hunt, Watson, Stafford, then Goddard. And then we are going to get that data point on the back end, and we are going to go ahead and we are going to be able to figure out how these players are currently being valued in the community. And let's look at running back right now. And running back, Joe Mixon currently at RB7. He's ahead of Gibbs. He's ahead of Hall. He's ahead of Swift. He's ahead of Jacobs. He's ahead of Achane. I think that Joe Mixon has to fall all the way down here to about RB15-ish. I think he falls in line with about Saquon Barkley. There's no way that I can value Joe Mixon this highly. And then when it comes to T. Higgins, what's going to be interesting is you could say with Higgins, oh, okay, well, he's injured. Maybe he doesn't rush himself back because they have nothing to play with. But at the same time, this is a player that is playing for a contract this offseason. He's going to get a great contract no matter what. But I mean, still. I mean, if you bump up 5% of what you're getting, that is a pretty large number. So I assume that Higgins does come back. Higgins probably like a wide receiver 3 with how bad this offense is. But I'm still going to have Chase that low in wide receiver 1. Higgins going forward as like a wide receiver 3. And Mixon as a mid RB2 just based off of a volume and volume alone. But I think that should be it in terms of the conversation around this. Absolutely brutal for all our underdog teams, all the teams that we drafted Cincinnati Bengals on. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and let's answer any questions that we have here. And of course, if you have not done so already, hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, if you want that Russell Wilson special pick'em more than less than half a total yard, you can find the link in the live chat description comment section. You're going to get that special pick'em, and promo code FLOCK is also going to get you a 100% deposit match and our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. But let's go ahead and let's pull this up. George coming out saying 3-7, 10-team league. Got offered Chase, Pacheco, McBride for Evans, Walker, Zach Charbonnet. The team is Tua, Mixon, Walker, Evans, Lamb, Andrews, Terry, Davis, Pittman, Zach, Singletary, Rice. Opponent has Garrett Wilson, Metcalf, Dell, and Nico Collins. So if we're 3-7, I mean, we are needing points in this lineup today, right? I mean, we are not really making plays here for the long term. We are trying to optimize for right this second. Going from Kenneth Walker to Isaiah Pacheco. Honestly, a little bit of a neutral move. Zach Charbonnet to Trey McBride when we just lost Mark Andrews. Give me Trey McBride. Going from Mike Evans to Jamar Chase. I'm assuming that this trade's going to go after this week, right? I'm assuming that it's going to happen after this week, and we can still use the Mike Evans points this week in particular. And as long as we can use the Mike Evans points this week, I would rather have the Jamar Chase side, even with the Burrow injury. But Caleb says Burrow, Goff, Achane, Kyron, Mixon, Keaton Mitchell, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek, Tank, Hollywood, Deontay, Michael Wilson, Kincaid, Goddard, Frymuth. The team 6-4 in a single flex league. What moves should we be looking to make? I mean, I would love to go out there and get an upgrade over Goff at quarterback if we could, but in reality, we probably are sitting on our hands. I'm assuming that we're going to have to go through and activate Frymuth from the IR, maybe send Dallas Goedert down to the IR. But as long as we're not rostering 3 tight ends actively on the IR, that's something that we can do. And then hopefully we can eventually sell one of those other tight ends when they come back and out there. Like if you could send Frymuth and Goff and get any upgraded quarterback, we'd do it. I just imagine we can at this point. Now, Garcel says 5-5, 10T BBR. We have Allen, CMC, Mixon, Kupp, Puka, Pickens, Walker, Kittle. And then on the bench, Higgins, Kyron, London, Dobbs, Charbonnet, Fields. Just got Allen, looking to grab Diggs and Evans for Puka, Walker, and Pickens / London. So going from Puka to Diggs, massive upgrade. Walker to Evans downgrade. Pickens, London don't really matter on this team with it being a 10-team format where we have quality depth down there on the bench where it looks like we're going to get Kyron Williams back in. Yeah, I would really like to make this move. Let's go out there and let's get the best player. Let's get Diggs, stack him up with Allen. Now, Margot says 6-4, 12-team Happy BR. Kyler, Brian Robinson, Ramondre Charbonnet, Foreman, Chase Olave, Addison, Ayuk, Kincaid. Should we start Charbonnet or Deonta Foreman? Very tough with Khalil Herbert coming back in this week. If it was a full BBR format, I'll tell you to go Charbonnet with the receiving usage. Here in a half PBR league, it's going to be a little bit tougher. I probably go Charbonnet because it's going to be in a better offense with more points to go around. And I don't know what the role is going to be for Foreman. Garces, or I can do Puka, Kittle, Pickens for Diggs and Evans. In a separate trade, Walker for Harrison, Ferguson. Hogan Moritz, my friend. I don't like the Walker for Harrison, Ferguson. I probably like this trade more, this Puka deal more, but I am not a fan of us going through and trading away Walker for that tight ends. I mean, if you can get to a tight end IRGL, I get to Kincaid, then yes, I would love that. Sportsman says 10 TBBR, HN for Pollard, Laporta, or Devonta Smith and Dalton Kincaid. If you really needed a tight end, I'd be fine going for Pollard and Sam Laporta. Now, Jay Dollar Sign says 6-4 PBR, single flex. Lamar, Bijan, HN, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, Kincaid, Pittman, and then on the bench, Najee, Russ, McBride, Gainwell, Kincaid for Mostert and Godwin. We need some depth. I agree this team could use some depth. If you believe that Trey McBride is someone that we can start every single week going forward and we are not worried about it in the slightest, then yes, you can go ahead and you can make this move. Now, Caesar says traded Evans for Dak and Hopkins. We lost Burrow. Brutal, my friend. Good price point to go get Dak Prescott on a team that lost Burrow. Probably wouldn't have done it last night, but now we have the official news. I think you can. Now, Sando says Kyler, Goff, Dobbs, or Sam Howell this week. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray with the rushing upside. ASAP says 10-team BBR 6-4. Trade Hawkinson and HN for Jefferson. We have McBride to replace Hawkinson, and we're set at running back with CMC and ETN. The rest of the team is Kyler, Kupp, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. If it is, say, a league where you start two wide receivers and one flex, and that depth just simply isn't going to matter, then yes, I would go ahead and yes, I would go get the upgrade for Jefferson. But also it does go back to like, are you comfortable in starting Trey McBride from a week-to-week perspective as well? Now, Dang Shoot says 12-team Dynasty Superflex, triple flex, PBR. Top 6 make the playoffs. We're currently in 8th. Huge bench. Waiver wire sucks. Are we going to tank or compete? We have Goff, Pickett, Carr, Jacobs, Jones, Charbonnet, Jefferson, T, Schultz, Evans, Ridley, Myers. My first, a late first. Okay. So I think that you could tank with this team if you really wanted. I don't think you have to commit to a hard tank. However, I think what you do is you kind of essentially go in the direction which your league mates want you to. You could approach some of the contending teams and go, hey man, what will you give me for Aaron Jones? What will you give me for Josh Jacobs? What will you give me for Mike Evans? See what we could get for these contending pieces. Say we could sell Jacobs, Aaron Jones, and Evans and get like 2 extra first and an extra second. Like get an insane premium on these guys. Then I would say, you know what? Yeah, probably does make sense for us to go through and make a move like that. However, if the other end of the spectrum happens where we go through and we try to say, hey, I'm going to sell Aaron Jones, what will he give me? and you can't find someone, the best you can get is a late second rounder, it's like, okay, well, at that price point, I might as well just try to contend, you know? So I wouldn't mind going out, putting some feelers to the contenders and saying like, hey, if I were to burn this down, what can I get for these assets? And if you could get a considerable amount of future value, then go for it. Now, Juan says 6 and 4 just traded Puka, Kincaid, Hopkins for Adams and Kmet. Puka to Adams upgrade. Kincaid to Kmet, massive downgrade. Hopkins, don't really care. Still have Kupp, Olave, Kelsey was a good deal. Having faith in the Raiders feeding Adams rest of the season. I really like Kincaid at this point, so I'm not in love with it. I definitely like it. I mean, it's definitely a move that we like. Just don't love it. Love it. Dang Shoot says 10-team BBR 7-3. Andrews down. Trading for Laporta, Ingram, or Schultz. Who of the following gets it done? Walker would get you Laporta. Charbonnet, Addison, Javonte, Flyers. Not going to get anything for Charbonnet. Javonte could possibly get you Laporta as well. And I think if you were looking to sell Addison or Flowers, you'd be getting to Evan Ingram. Dalton Schultz here. I don't know if I'm super excited to go through and trade for him. I mean, if you can sell Charbonnet for Schultz, go for it. Nico Collins coming back in. I think the target volume is going to be a little bit tougher to come by. But, I mean, I would rather go and get Sam Laporte out of those options. And if you wanted to sell one of the running backs for him, I wouldn't fault you for it. The GOAT says 12-team full BBR, 3 receivers, 1 flex. Tua, Lawrence, Waddle, Deontay, Flowers, Ridley, Dobbs, Wilson, Gibbs, Saquon, Ford, Chandler, Thomas. Traded Saquon for Connor and Debo. Trying to get a tight end now. Any suggestions? Thanks, Mason. Appreciate you, my friend. If we were looking at this, I'm okay with that deal because we really needed depth. I hate to give you this answer because I know it's a horrendous one, but I don't know if you can afford a tight end upgrade. I mean, right now at wide receiver, we're starting Waddle, Debo, Deontay, and then Zay Flowers in the flex, you know? So if we're in a position where we're having to start Zay Flowers from a week-to-week perspective, I really don't think we have the luxury, especially in a little bit of a deeper format like this, where we could go through and where we can afford to go and add another piece to get a better tight end. You probably have to hold on to your depth. And I know it's a bad answer. I know that's not what you're looking for, but I think it's the truth. CR says, PBR, we got a pick 4. Puka, Dell, Barkley, Javonte. I'm assuming you meant pick 3 because you gave us 4 options. And if I'd have benched someone out of this list, I would bench Tank Dell with Nico Collins coming back in. Not excited about it, but I mean, the other guys are better. Now, Daniel says, happy BR 7-3. Trade Javonte for Ayuk or Javonte for Godwin, McLaurin. Wide receivers are Olave, DJ, Amari, and Higgins. Running backs are CMC, Gibbs, Gus, and Algier. If I could trade Gus for one of these guys, I would. I'm not going to trade Javonte at this price point, though. I think if you're trading Javonte, you want a little bit more of a premium, if I'm to be honest. Now, Teddy says 12-team BBR 6-4. Herbert, Kamara, Javonte, Diggs, Kirk, Kelsey, Deontay. And then on the bench, Henderson, Hubbard, Johnston. Thoughts on the team and any potential moves? I mean, I would like to upgrade the flex spot if we can. We just really can't afford it. I mean, I like the squad overall, especially in a full BBR format. Elite quarterback, elite tight ends, running backs that are going to catch the ball, and a great receiver in Diggs. I think the depth is a little bit questionable, but this is exactly where we want to be at this time of the year. So, I mean, I like it as is, and really, I think you've already made the moves that we are looking for. Okay. Let's see if we can find our next question. This next one coming out from Chris says, lost Andrews in a 16-team half PPR league where we're 9-1. Got to trade for Stroud, McBride, and Douglas for Josh Allen. No backup tight end, and Hunter Henry is the best tight end on the waiver wire. 16-team league, depth's going to matter much more. If it was like a 10-team format, I would say, hell no, there's no reason why we would even consider this. My only reason I am considering it is the fact that it is a 16-team format where that depth's going to matter a little bit more, and it would be much tougher to get a tight end off waivers. I probably keep Josh Allen. Unless you're going to tell me, well, Mason, they're like, everybody rosters like 10, 11 guys on the bench, where there will be a 0% chance I can ever find a tight end off the waiver wire. Because my thought process is there's still somewhat of a chance that you could find a tight end off waivers. I mean, if you go through and if you look at a lot of the guys that are viable at tight end right now, I mean, and they're guys that came off the waiver wire and so deep they would never be rostered even in a 16-team format. Chisel says 10-team BBR super flex. We have Herbert, Dobbs, Stafford, CMC, Walker, Mostert, Hubbard, Charbonnet, Diggs, Olave, Devonta, JSN, Deontay Johnson, Titans, Kittle. What trades should we look to make? Quarterback, we're sitting pretty. I would say if it's a full PBR format, Kenneth Walker is going to be someone I'm looking to move on from. If you wanted to see if you could sell like Kenneth Walker and Devonta Smith, Kenneth Walker and Deontay Johnson, and pivot to a running back in a higher tier that you're more excited about their ability to catch the ball. Personally, that's something that I would look to do, my friend. Let me pull up flogfantasy.com to see some running backs we could possibly go for. Like if you wanted to go for, say, someone like Gibbs, someone like DeAndre Swift, someone like Josh Jacobs, I think that'd be a lot better. Just Kenneth Walker's not going to have any role as a receiver whatsoever. Jacob says 10-team BBR is 7-3. We have Hurts, Walker, Chandler, AJ Evans, Andrews, Nico, Bijan, Ridley, JT Stroud, Myers, Schultz, Noah Brown. Got 2 trade offers. Walker for McBride Pacheco. I'm going to go McBride Pacheco there. Or JT for Kincaid, Waddle, Javonte. What are your thoughts? Second deal. I kind of like the package, to be honest with you. Seems like it's a lot. My only hesitation is if it's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, then the depth just simply is not going to matter, and I want to keep the elite level asset. I want to keep Jonathan Taylor. But if it's a league where maybe you have multiple flex spots, I mean, that's a one hell of a package if you're going to trade away JT. I do think that JT is a top 5 RB rest of season, though. Chris says Kelsey for Chase and Evan Ingram. We have Puka, Mari, Zay's receivers. 14-team league, so depth's going to matter a little bit more. With the Burrow news, I would rather have Travis Kelsey. I think Ingram's an interesting buy low candidate. I think that you would need a massive price discount if you are going to do so. Now, Lil Boy Blue says 9-1, trade Kittle and Singletary for Bijan. We have Kincaid. Hell yes, if you have Kincaid, let's go get Bijan at that price. Phoenix Lance says, thank God it's Friday, my man. Do we feel HN is a smash start if active? Worried about a decoy game? We have Singletary as the pivot. I am going to be going to Von HN, assuming that he is active. I am starting him everywhere we can. I ranked him as a top 10 running back this week. If you look at Las Vegas implied team totals, right now, Vegas sportsbooks have the Miami Dolphins as a the number 1 offense in the NFL this week. Joey says, I have to bench 1 in a full PBR league. Harris, Ford, HN, and McBride. Lead in Harris, but what if the HN injury? Thanks, man. Appreciate you. I think I am going to go ahead and bench Najee Harris because Najee Harris is in a brutal matchup, and he obviously is splitting his backfield at the same time. Cody says 12-team PBR, Taysom and Ayuk for Olave. We have Ingram already. Yes, we have Ingram already. I'm never starting Taysom over Olave. I'm just Taysom over Ingram. So yeah, I'll make that move. Sean says flex spot was Rashee Rice or Dotson. Traded Jacobs for White and Evans to fill. Was it a good deal in a full PBR format? Full PPR format, I'm fine with it. Non-PPR league, I do think that Rachaad White is an interesting sell high candidate in that non-PPR format. But in a full PPR league, yeah, let's go get White. Dominican says, should we trade Kenneth Walker for Saquon or Pollard? Full PPR format, give me Saquon over Walker. Clutch Play says 12-team PPR league, Tank Dell for Hollywood Brown. They are all in that large group of wide receivers that are going to be averaging about 12 points per game going forward. The simple answer is, it is up to you. To be completely honest with you, this is that one large flat tier wide receivers where you can make an argument for either guy, my friend. Masij says, should we trade Chase Stevenson for Devonta Smith and Kenneth Walker? I'd rather have Walker over Stevenson. I'd rather have Chase over Smith. Much closer, obviously, post-Burrow injury, but I probably still will take the Chase side. Veggie says 7-3, 12-team full PPR. Hurts, Eckler, Henderson, Brown, Dell, Ingram, JSN. Notable bench, Higgins, Kyron, Goddard. Any moves? Thanks for the content. You're keeping me in the game this season. Appreciate you, my friend. 7-3, you're in a very comfortable spot. I mean, I would love to go out there and say, let's get an upgrade at running back 2. But in reality, we have JSN at the flex right now. I mean, we really can't afford to go out there and upgrade running back 2. We're 7-3 too. We are waiting here for the long-term upside where we are pretty much locked and loaded with the playoffs. So I would say that this is a team that doesn't really have a clear path with a lot of firepower where we can make an easy move. I think it's probably just, let's sit here, let's wait till we get Kyron Williams back in, and let's go through and let's see if we can make some waiver wire moves as well. Now, CTE says Mason needs some help. 4-6, easy rest of season schedule. Burrow, Gibbs, HN Cup, Keenan, Schultz, JT, JSN, Shaheed, Spears, Gainwell. We picked up Russ. I like picking up Russ, obviously dropping Burrow. The other thing that I would probably look to do, and I know this is a side note, I mean, that really the team's well constructed from a trades perspective, but I do think from a bench perspective, what I probably would look to do is I'd look to go ahead and drop Shaheed and just pick up another quarterback off the waiver wire. Because if we can pick up another QB off waivers, you're in a comfortable position where we can go through and play the matchups, right? We can play the matchups. Rob says, rest of season, Dell or Devonta Smith. I'm going to go Smith. Rico or Charbonnet. Hook'em Horns. Oh, Hook'em Horns, my friend. But we will go with Zach Charbonnet over Dowdle. I think Charbonnet has a significantly higher ceiling. Jacob says, Mahomes, St. Brown, Puka, Etienne, Jones, McBride, Dell, and then on the bench, Purdy, Deontay, London, Rice, Bigsby, Dillon. How are we looking rest of season? Thanks, brother. Thank you. I think we're in a very comfortable spot. If you wanted to see if we could sell Purdy and like Deontay or Purdy and Dell and go get an upgrade at wide receiver from the Burrow team, we can try it. I'm assuming they're going to tell us to bug off, but yeah, great team. Cammy, happy to see us. The same Mason, happy BR Super Flex. We have Connor, Jacobs, Javonte, Kirk, Amari, DK, Nico, Tank, Hogginson, Allen, Hurts. Burrow owner offers Hall for Kyler. Should we accept? So if it was a regular 1 QB format, then yeah, of course, I would way rather have Hall over Kyler. Super flex league, on the other hand, I would honestly probably ask for a little bit in return. I mean, I would ask for like another QB on the back end. I'd ask for a QB3, especially as we're going to have to go through the Josh Allen bye week in a few weeks. So a super flex format, I mean, you can make it if you want, just not nearly as easy. I mean, I know that we have the elite level QBs here, but I'd probably ask for a little bit more value on top. Beggett says 5-5, 10-team BBR single flex. We have Herbert, Chase, Diggs, Saquon, JT, Laporta, Olave. And then on the bench, Connor, Singletary, Higgins, Keaton, and a Hollywood. Any trades, stingy league. I mean, great team. You don't need to do anything. I mean, if we have this kind of depth, the only thing I'd say is if you wanted to send like Devin Singletary and Olave, if you thought you could get an elite level player for the flex, I mean, that could be an interesting move, right? By no means is something we have to do, but we could look at it. Now, Joe says, Fields, Kyler, Howell, Brown, Kupp, Waddle, Walker, Jones, Kyron, Waller, McBride, Adams, Pollard, Sutton, Noah Brown. What trade to make with Walker? Tried getting Swift. If this is a one quarterback format, what I think we do is we go to that Burrow team and we say, hey man, you need a quarterback. I have Fields, Kyler, and Sam Howell. Pick your poison. Tell me who you want. And see if we can send Kenneth Walker with that quarterback and go get an RB1 that's going to catch the ball. That's honestly what I'd probably look to do. Because my issue with Walker in a full BBR format, it's just not going to have a role as a receiver. Jay says 10-team full BBR league. We have Goff, Hill, Keenan, Pollard, Eckler, Andrews, Brees, Hollywood. And then on the bench, Jones, Ridley, Watson, Taysom. Deadlines tonight. Any suggestions? Okay. This is a great team. I'm trying to come up with anything. Honestly, no. I mean, if you wanted to go out there and try to upgrade quarterback, that could be something that we look to do. If you wanted to see if we could send like Ridley and Goff and just go get Justin Fields, go get Kyler Murray, go get someone that's going to run the ball, I think that'd make a lot of sense. Obviously, much easier said than done, especially if the quarterback market's going to be a little bit tougher now with the Burrow injury. But honestly, it's about what I would be looking to do. Now, Austin says, just lost Andrews. We have McBride. Taysom got dropped. Is he worth picking up as a backup? If so, who should we drop between Dotson and Spears? I would drop Dotson for Taysom. The reason being is there is an outside chance, there's a world that you could find yourself in that Derrick Henry goes down and Tyjae Spears turns into a league winner. Terry McLaurin goes down. It's not like Dotson's a league winner, right? Now, Ezorad says 12-team BBR. We have Lamar, Henry, Montgomery, Hill, St. Brown, Laporta, Rashad. Should we trade Montgomery and Dobbs off the bench for Kamara and the Ravens defense? Full BBR format, Montgomery to Kamara is a big-time upgrade. We have Lamar, so we don't really need Dobbs. So, yes, I would go ahead and I would look to do that in a full PPR league. Joseph says 9-1, so I'm pretty much locked into a bye week. Did Waddle to get Devonta Smith because Smith's week 16-17 matchups are much better and to stack with Jalen Hurts. I don't mind it. I mean, I definitely would rather have Waddle over Smith, but what also could be interesting in that is if Dallas Goedert misses a considerable amount of time here, I mean, maybe you like it even more for that reason. Joey says trade Achane and Dillon for Bijan, or is it a lateral move? I think it's probably a lateral move. I mean, if you wanted to, by no means am I going to stop you from doing that. I want Bijan, but it's hard for me to say that when obviously I'm the most biased person ever. Hook 'em horns. Now, Montley says, need a flex, CJ and Kupp starting, Nico, Puka, and Devon Achane. I'm going to go Devon Achane. I mean, if you're looking at his offense right now, the highest implied team total of any team in the NFL is the Miami Dolphins. Supposed to just completely crush it this week. Let me refresh this so we can keep bringing these up. And as I do that, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on this live stream. I mean, it looks like slightly less than 10% of y'all have hit that like, but almost 10%, so thank you. And if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. and a Russell Wilson special pickup, more than less than half a total yard, ladies and gentlemen. Now, our next question coming out from James says, yes or no, Puka or Pollard? My choice for McBride. I'm going to go Puka Pollard. Need a flex upgrade. Who should we make the deal? We have Ayuk, Evans, Lamb, Brian Robinson, Bijan, Etienne, Lamar, and Hawkinson. Yeah, if you have Hawkinson, 100% make the deal. I think you can pick whoever you want there between Puka and Pollard. I assume most people want Puka, but yeah, I would sell McBride for one of those guys. Redeem says, Goff or Fields? I think Goff's the better real-life quarterback. I think Fields the better fantasy guy, given his rushing upside. Which one should we trade away? I'll trade away Goff. It depends on how much value you're going to get too, right? I'm says traded Andrews and Godwin for Kelsey. Beautiful, beautiful. And moved Kyler from the IR. We had Burrow before yesterday. Any other trades? The teams, Bijan, Cook, Javonte, or Madre, Lamb, Puka, Tank, Nico, Deontay, Hollywood in a full PPR format. I mean, you have a ton of startable wide receivers. If you wanted to send Nico and like James Cook and go get a better running back, Nico and Ramadre, go get a better running back, or like Tank Dell and Javonte Williams. If you want to send one of your depth wide receivers with one of those RBs, get an upgrade at the RB position specifically for the flex, that's something that you could do. By no means is it something you need to do. Francis, hey Mason, just traded Brian Robinson for Tank Dell. Couldn't get anything better. We just lost Andrews and was offered Hopkins, McBride for DJ Moore. Should we take it? You've helped me win 6 straight. Keep it up. Appreciate you, my friend. If you just lost Andrews, I am fine moving down from DJ Moore to DeAndre Hopkins to pick up Trey McBride. That is a reasonable price point for McBride. Now, K Column says 10-team league, 7-3. Trade deadline next week. We have Kyler Fields, Eckler, JT, Brees, Bijan, Montgomery, 8. Oh my gosh, this is a nuts team. There's no excuse for this team to not have an elite level tight end, right? Look at how many viable running backs. Look at how many running backs with value you have on this team. I think it is a clear spot to go through and get some value out of these running backs, and that there's no way now we can start all these guys, right? And you just have an embarrassment of riches at the position. You can afford going and getting someone like Travis Kelce. Now, D. Brito says, Mahomes, Allen, Hollywood, Osborne, London, Dodson, CMC, Hall, Stevenson, Elijah Mitchell, Travis Kelce. Going to get Amari, looking to drop someone. Who would it be? We got offered Kupp and Dobbs for Mahomes. Should we accept? We don't really have a wide receiver 3 right now. I just don't like breaking up the Mahomes-Kelce stack. So I don't love it, but if you wanted to, I think you can. And then if we were dropping one of these players, I think the drop at this point will be Elijah Mitchell. And you probably want to go ahead and drop Elijah Mitchell, my friend. Sir says, Mason, thanks to you. I'm 7-3, 7-3, 9-1 in my leagues. No, that is awesome. Congrats, my friend. Have BBR play Dylan Dobbs or pick up Royce or Samuel. I'm assuming this is Curtis Samuel. Obviously, if it's Deebo Samuel, we're playing Deebo. Royce will have Stafford back in. He's still going to see 50% of this backfield. Have PBR. This is a tough spot. I probably go Romeo Dobbs. The issue in what you have in Green Bay here is obviously this isn't a great offense. Not only is this not a great offense, but on top of that, you are having to deal that you have a million players getting targets here. Where it's just not like, it's not concentrated. It's like the exact opposite of what you have with the Raiders, right? Now, Gio says, 12-team, have BBR double flex. 4-2, we have Mahomes, Jacobs, Swift, Diggs, Wilson, Ferguson, Jones, Singletary. Downs, Douglas, Higgins, Guyton. Fighting for a playoff spot, any moves. I definitely want to rebalance the depth that this team has. I'd probably go through and drop Jalen Guyton and pick up another running back off the waiver wire that we think has a little more long-term upside. And outside of that, we really don't have the depth in this league to go ahead and make any dramatic swings, right? I mean, it's a 12-team double flex format where the depth's going to matter a little bit more. I mean, we have T. Higgins, but it's not like you're going to be able to sell T. Higgins for anything now. So probably are just sitting on our hands. I will say I'm probably restructuring the bench a little bit, however, where I do go through and I do drop Jalen Guyton for a running back if possible. Now, Big Tone says running backs Hall, Swift, White, Pacheco. Jefferson, Amonra, Waddle, Kincaid, Laporta. So we trade White, Waddle, Kincaid to get to Lamb. With how loaded this team is, yes. Very few teams I'd say were willing to overpay like that, but with this team in particular, you can afford to go out there and dramatically overpay. Or like just overpay for the stud because you have the embarrassment of riches. Now, Shellback says 8-team league, 7-3. We have HN, Mostert, Swift, Chandler. Which three are you starting? I'm going to go with the first three, even with no Alexander Madison. I mean, I think you can start Ty Chandler if you wanted to. I mean, just those other guys are going to be in top offenses, right? So I think we can be excited about starting as many of those Miami Dolphins guys we pretty much can. Mitchell says, happy BR 5-5, 12-team league. Russ, Bijan, Pollard, Ford, Keenan, Puka, Kirk, Nico, Rice, Elijah, and Njoku, Goddard. Try to make a move with all these wide receivers. Any trade suggestions? So I agree. I mean, wide receivers, the strength of this team, but let's go through and let's be realistic about like what could we reasonably expect to get in a trade here? I mean, if we look at this, is anybody going to pay for Rice? Probably not. We need to keep Keenan Puka. I think the guy that would have name appeal if you wanted to go through and sell him, if you wanted to send like Nico Collins and David Njoku and see if we can pivot over and go get a tight end like the Dalton Kincaid range, that's possibly something that we could look to do, my friend. If you wanted to sell one of the wide receivers, because I want to keep Puka, I want to keep Keenan. And I don't think you're going to get anything for someone like Rice. Wombly says, who at the flex, Moore, Dotson, Dobbs, or JSN? We're going to go DJ Moore. Also, is Charbonnet startable if we have JT out? If it is a full BBR format, he is startable. I don't know if we're excited to start him right. It's why we talk about like, why I really like rostering guys like Charbonnet at the bottom end of our team, because if you're desperate, you can put Zach Charbonnet in there in a full BBR format, given his receiving usage. But why I really like Zach Charbonnet is if you were to get that injury to Kenneth Walker, then he's a league winner. So I don't know. I think his underdog pick him this week is like 40-ish yards. Like just reasonable expectations. Devin says 12-team at BBR, we lost Burrow. Get Stroud, Dell, Etienne. Get Bijan, Kyron, Sutton. Bijan to Etienne upgrade. Kyron to Dell. Probably give me Kyron. Sutton to Stroud to give me Stroud. Yeah, so we're going to go Stroud and Etienne relatively easily here, my friend. Especially looking at this team. Go Stroud and Etienne. Quiddy says, full BBR 10-team league, 5-5, fourth seed. Team consists of Burrow, Goff, Pollard, White, Ford, Javonte, Kyron, Cup, Lamb, Flowers, Moore, Kirk, Andrews. Any trade ideas with Burrow and Andrews done for the season? The issue is losing both these guys, right? Because then it takes a lot of that additional value that we had that we could possibly solve one of the spots. And it's like, okay, well, now what are we supposed to do? So now we need to be holding on to Goff. So we can go through and say, oh, let's sell Goff and get a tight ends. We have Pollard, White for Javonte Kyron. So we're about to get Kyron back in. So we have enough startable running back production. So what I would probably look to do here is, if you wanted to go through and start selling off some of these running backs, like maybe send Javonte Williams and go get Kincaid. Maybe send Rachaad White and go get CJ Stroud. You have the wide receiver depth where you could sell like DJ Moore in a package like that as well. I think get really lucky with how much depth that we have there at running back and wide receiver. Now, Kevin says 10 TPBR sitting in fourth, 6-4. We have Kyler, Dobbs, Fields, Pollard, Kamara, Gibbs, Chandler, Tyreek, Puka, Wilson, Pittman, Rice, McBride, Schultz. What can we improve and which quarterback should we look to trade? So, I mean, I think all three of these quarterbacks are startable based off their rushing upside. So, I think you trade whoever is going to get you value, my friend, because I don't think you need three of these players. So, let's go to the Burrow team. Let's go, hey, what quarterback do you want? I mean, we can look at what we want on this team. On this team, I'd love to sell McBride and one of these quarterbacks, see if we can go get to an elite level tight end like Hawkinson that we have the larger sample with, right? So if you wanted to go to that Burrow team or go to the Deshaun Watson team and go, hey, I have three quarterbacks. They're all great. You let me know who you want and let's work out a deal and give them who they want. Because, I mean, trading Kyler, we're still perfectly fine starting Dobbs and Fields, right? Trading Fields, still perfectly fine starting Kyler and Dobbs. And vice versa. I'm being able to play the matchups between two out of those three guys. WTF Hawk says 12 team PBR is 6-4. Allen, Pacheco, White, Jefferson, Olave, Gus. And then on the bench, Warren, Gabe Davis, Quentin Johnson, Charbonnet, Moore. Are we looking to choose one running back in a flex? Nice seeing you, Mason. Thank you so much for being a longtime member of the flock, my man. I mean, you're typically full BBR format. I'm still going to start Pacheco, White every single week. Flex, it's going to be a little bit tougher. We're going to be going between Gus and DJ Moore. I think you're going to go through the matchups. My issue with Gus in a full BBR format is he's averaging like one or fewer targets per game. So, I mean, it's really difficult for me to come out and say like, oh yeah, we can confidently project him to be a starter every single week. So what I would look to do is honestly, I would look to maybe see what we could get for Gus Edwards. Because, I mean, obviously he's been phenomenal. I just don't know if it's possible that the touchdowns keep up like this, right? I just don't know how it is possible. Now, Colin says, 10-team BBR, first place, clinch the playoffs. I traded Jacobs, Evans, McBride for Keenan. Beautiful deal. Teams now Kyler, Fields, ETN, JT, HN, Montgomery, Hunt, Chase, Amon-Ra, Keenan. Perfect team, and this is exactly what we're going to do. And this is why in that 10-team league, we want to go out there and quote-unquote overpay to get the elite level stud, right? Let's just overpay to get that stud. Judy 2-Tap says, what's up, Mason? Do we start Hurts or Stroud? We're going to go Jalen Hurts, given the rushing upside. Even though it looks like Texans offense will be a little bit better this week. Kind of nervous about Hurts just because the matchup. Yeah, tough matchup. I think the implied team total is hovering around like 22, 23 points for the Eagles, whereas the implied team total for the Texans off the top of my head, maybe it's not like 26. So, I mean, I understand, yeah, the Texans offense should be better this week given their respective matchups. But Jalen Hurts is just going to monopolize more of his offensive points given his rushing upside. Pete My Willie says, we have Kincaid. Should we trade Hawkinson for Achane or Ford? What are your thoughts? I would not trade Hawkinson for Ford. If you wanted to trade Hawkinson for someone, it would be for Devon Achane. And yeah, if you think that Achane can keep up half the efficiency he had before the injury, then go for it. Watson says 9-1, 10-team double flex. Chase owner wants Lamb. Should we add Olave or Puka? We have Waddle, Wilson. My tight ends, Laporta. Quarterbacks, Jackson. Thinking of weeks 16, 17. So both these players obviously have great schedules for the fantasy football playoffs. If you could pivot from Wilson to either Olave or Puka based off their respective schedules, I'd be fine with either or, my friend. I'd be fine with either or. Now, Edson says, Herbert, Aaron Jones, Montgomery, Kyron, Kupp, Kirk, Kelsey, Lockett, Puka, Ridley, Dobbs, Terry. Any trade ideas? Well-balanced team. I mean, we do have a ton of wide receiver depth. So if it's a full PPR format, I'm maybe going to be pivoting off David Montgomery as someone who's not really going to have too much involvement as a receiver. And if you wanted to go through and sell, say, like David Montgomery and Terry McLaurin and see if you can go get a running back that's going to catch the ball a little bit more like Travis Etienne, Jonathan Taylor, I think that would be something I'll look to do. Matthew says, 10-team PPR trade Tyreek for Lamb and Achane. I'm going to take Tyreek in a 10-team league. Adrian says, full BBR, the team is Stroud, Kyler, Kamara, Mixon, Hill, Diggs, Smith, Hawkinson. And the bench is White, Goddard, Lawrence, McBride, Nico, JSN, Deontay Boyd. Should we look to make a trade here? I am 6-4. Full BBR format, we're going to be looking to hold on to Kamara. Hold on to White in a full PBR league. We have a ton of depth. If you wanted to sell like actually, we probably couldn't do it there. We could try to sell like Mixon and Hawkinson. There's an outside chance if you sell Mixon and Hawkinson, you could get over to like the tier of Kelsey. And if you could do that, I would love that, my friend. Robin says we have Burrow and Purdy, one quarterback. Should we trust Purdy for this season? I would pick up another QB like Russ and play the matchups between Purdy and the other quarterback. Ian says 12-team PBR. We have Herbert, JT, Jacobs, Jamar, Ayuk, Ingram, Terry. Should we trade Jamar and one of my running backs get a top 5 receiver? If you have like another running back on the bench like Kyron Williams that's coming back, then yeah. I don't want to trade like Jonathan Taylor or Jamar Chase to go get Stephon Diggs, if that's what you're asking. I want to hold JT there, but if you have like another running back that's viable on the bench, I would. Now, Jordan says, in a 10-team league, what's a better playoff format in your opinion? 4 teams that play, this is something that I've actually thought about a lot. 4 teams that play 16, 17, or 6 teams that play with a 2 top. So this is an issue in a 10-team league, right? 12-team format, I think it's very simple. Half the teams make the playoffs. The top 2 teams get the bye. But the issue is, in that 10-team league, it can't work out like that, right? So I think that there maybe, but unless we go into a little bit more of a complicated situation and what we could do here, if we're going to keep it pretty simple, I think the simple solution that you could look at is it probably makes sense if you're playing in like a casual league with your high school buddies and you want everybody to have fun and you want it to just be like a fun experience, to have the 6 teams make the playoffs with the top 2 teams getting a bye. The issue is that skews the strategy in your league. If 60% of the teams are going to make the playoffs, really you don't have to care about the regular season. So if you wanted to make people care about the regular season, what you could do in that instance is you could go through and say, if you're playing in a more serious league where it's like, hey, these aren't my high school buddies. I found these guys on the internet and we're going through and we're just going to figure out who's the best in fantasy football and we're going to reward the best player. In that instance, you could go through and you could do only the top 4 teams making the playoffs. So I think it depends. Are we going to focus in on if it should be more for fun or if it should be more about rewarding the best player? Because I hate to say it, and I wish it wasn't the case, but to be completely honest, the fantasy football playoffs are a little bit more luck, and the fantasy football regular season is like where you kind of shine, right? Because the playoffs are such a small sample overall. Now, Adolfo says, happy Friday, Mason. We need 2 receivers and a flex. Options are Debo, Puka, Dell, McBride, Addison, Godwin, Rondell. Thanks for the help, Mother Flocker. Appreciate you, my friend. Our 2 wide receivers, we're going to be going with Debo and Puka. Our flex, I'm going to go with Dell. I think you can make an argument for Addison if we were to have no Jefferson. I'm assuming that Jefferson's going to play this week. And I think you could make an argument for Godwin, but the issue is very tough matchup against the Niners. Dino says, happy BR. Hillen for Gibbs and Waddle. What do you think? I'm going to go Tyreek Hill, my friend. Mo says, start 2, Pacheco, Singletary, Amari, Hollywood, and Lockett. I'm going to go with Singletary and Pacheco. Not too excited about Amari in a low-scoring game environment with no Deshaun Watson here. Like, having no Deshaun Watson, I really don't want to be starting any of these Cleveland Browns. Dan says, bye week got me working with Singletary, Chandler, and Chuba Hubbard. Which 2 would you recommend for me to start? Also love the content. Appreciate you, my friend. Chuba Hubbard is a very tough matchup going up against the Dallas Cowboys. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Singletary and Chandler. Kevin says, 7-3, 10-team keeper league, single flex, full PBR. We have Dak, Mixon, Brian Robinson, Lamb, Terry, Ayuk, Kelsey, Singletary. And then on the bench, Fields, Purdy, Pacheco, JSN, Dotson, and Khalil Herbert. So, I mean, I think it just makes so much sense, right? If we have 3 viable quarterbacks, let's go through and let's see what we can get for Dak if we were to sell Dak Prescott and maybe Devin Singletary, and see if we can go get a top-end running back, see if we can go get a top-end wide receiver for the flex. Then we still have Fields and Purdy to play rest of season. And if we can go to the Burrow team, I'd assume that they're willing to give up a considerable amount here. Obviously, you don't have to sell Dak. If instead you wanted to sell Fields, you could do that. I just think that both quarterbacks should be viewed in a similar light rest of season. And if they're viewed in a similar light rest of season, for me, I think you're going to get a lot more value out of other people if you were to sell Dak rather than Fields, with Dak being the guy that's been producing most recently. And I'll say Dak is a significantly better real-life quarterback than Fields. The thing is, Fields has rushing upside. Y'all know I'm not some massive Fields fanboy. Logan says, Kyler, Baker, Mixon, Ford, Connor, Kupp, Lamb, Dell, Kincaid, 5-5, happy BR, 12-team league. Burrow manager wants Kyler, and he has A.J. Brown, Keenan, ETN, and Swift. What moves, if any? Thank you. Thank you, my friend. I would say buzz off, to be honest. I mean, you can say, give me Travis Etienne, and I'll give you Kyler Murray and Jerome Ford. You know? I mean, you can give him an obnoxious offer like that would be a no-brainer win for us. But my thing here is ultimately, like, we need a quarterback as well. We trade Kyler, then we're rolling with Baker. I don't want to be relying on Baker rest of season. Thomas says, start Mostert or Amari in a full PBR. Thanks for the help. Go Bombers. Appreciate you, my friend. We will go with Mostert over Amari, given the tough environment for Amari Cooper with how bad that offense will be. Veet says, Olave, Wilson, Gus, Singletary for Brown, Montgomery, London. Olave to Brown, upgrade. Wilson to Montgomery, up to you. Gus Singletary to London. Give me Gus and Singletary. I'm going to go A.J. Brown and David Montgomery overall, though. I think A.J. Brown's the best player. No-Go says 18 BBR, trade Ayuk for Stroud. We have Sam Howell. 8-team league, I want the elite level quarterbacks. Honestly, I probably would. Praying Mantis says, Hurts, Gibbs, Swift, Montgomery, Chandler, Charbonnet, St. Brown, Ridley, Dotson, Davis, Jason, Cooks, Kincaid. 10-team, half PPR league. Got offered Chase and Taylor for St. Brown and Montgomery. Really tough now with the Burrow injury. I mean, obviously this would be no-brainer. Chase if Burrow was healthy. What can we do here, my friend? Can everybody spam the chat? What side would you rather have? Would you rather have Jamar Chase and Taylor or Amon-Ra St. Brown and David Montgomery? What side are you taking here, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully the chat's able to answer that for you, Praying Mantis, because I legitimately have no idea, to be honest with you. Ann's quiz says 12-team at BBR 6-4. Sent Purdy, Godwin for Lamar. What are your thoughts? Honestly, I think it's a no-brainer. I hope Lamar starts scoring more rushing touchdowns. He hasn't been scoring them lately, but he's still running the ball a ton, so I want Lamar. Max says, should we trade Lamar and Javonte for Amon-Ra? Yeah, I'm going to take Amon-Ra there. I mean, Amon-Ra's a borderline top 6-ish asset currently. Alicia says, 10-team full BBR 5-5. Stroud, JT, Gibbs, Pittman, Hollywood, Hawkinson, Achane. And the bench is Ridley, Schultz, Gus, Kyler, Ward, Algier, Noah Brown. Any advice? Really strong team. I mean, honestly, there's not too much to do. If you wanted to see if you could sell Kyler to the Burrow team and send like Kyler and Gibbs and go get to Eckler, if you want to see if you could send Kyler and Hawkinson and go get to Kelsey, those are trades that we could make if we have Stroud. By no means do we need to. Big Route says, which two do we start between Mostert, Jones, or Swift in a standard league? I'm going to go Mostert and Swift. I think most people would go Jones and Swift. Drew says Lamar and Achane for Kelsey. He's the Burrow owner. We lost Andrews. Other running backs are Barkley, Swift, Javonte. Okay, so we have plenty of running back depth. Fields on the way. If Fields is on your waiver wire and it's essentially we're trading Lamar and Achane for Kelsey and Fields, then yes, we're going to go Kelsey and Fields. Now, Tatered Sandwich says, you're the man. 8-2 with your help. Flex, Puka, Javonte, or Singletary in a full PBR format. Appreciate you, my friend. Full BBR league, I'm going to go Puka. If it was like a non-PBR format, we'd go with the running back. Kimmy says he has JT and Mostert as well. Trade Kyler or hold. So going back to that super flex format, if JT is right there for me, like I think you could sell Kyler for JT in that super flex league. I do view JT as that top 5 running back rest of the season. We just have to like, if it's a super flex league, we are in the position of power, right? They're not. Like, they're the ones who lost Joe Burrow in a super flex format. We're the ones kind of get to dictate how this goes. Now, Caesar says, happy BR, 10-team league. We have Dak, Bijan, Gibbs, Connor, Cook, Olave, Ayuk, Lamb, Hollywood, Hopkins, Kelsey, Kincaid. What should we do the deadlines today? Let's go ahead and let's send Dalton Kincaid in a package with Jahmyr Gibbs and go get an elite running back. Go send him with Connor and get an elite running back. Go send him with Ayuk and get an elite receiver. But go to the Mark Andrews team and go, hey, man, see, they need some help here. I'd be happy to go through, and I'd be happy to sell you Dalton Kincaid. Just give me an upgrade somewhere else. I mean, if you have Kelsey, you don't need Kincaid. Now, Raman says Montgomery McBride for DJ Moore in a PPR format. The team is Burrow, Eckler, Brian Robinson, Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Logan Thomas, Devonta Smith, Lockett, and Addison. I think David Montgomery has significantly more upside than this. So we're going to go with David Montgomery there. Alex says 8-team double flex, Burrow, Swift, Mixon, Chase, St. Brown, Kincaid, Dell, Singletary. On the bench, Fields, Kamara, JT, Rice, Myers. Trying to think. Great team. Honestly, no moves. The first chance you get to try to sell high on, like, say, Rashee Rice. Obviously, if Rice is a good week against Philly, we're just going to package him with the Rice and package him with Fields and get any upgraded quarterback. I mean, 8-team league. I would love to see if we could package together maybe like Jamar Chase and Dalton Kincaid and pivot over and get to Travis Kelce. I'd like to do that in an 8-team format. Ryan says, give Ayuk or Thielen for Devonta Smith. We have Jalen Hurts. I'd give Adam Thielen for Devonta Smith if we have Jalen Hurts. Ahmed says, Dak, Jamar, Keenan, Jacobs, Kamara, McBride, McLaurin, Sutton, Charbonnet, Kyron, JSN, Johnston. Should we keep this team or upgrade from Jamar? So the question is, like, do we have enough firepower to, right? I mean, if you're looking at this team, if you could sell like Sutton and Jamar and still stay within like a round 1 wide receiver, get to like Stephon Diggs, get to Amon-Ra St. Brown, get to AJ Brown, that'd be a no-brainer. Just much easier said than done. Joey says, should we be nervous about HN's playoff schedule? Dallas, the Jets, and Baltimore. I could ship him for Bijan, but HN may have more opportunities to score. I feel you on that. Obviously, this Dolphins offense is much better than Atlanta. I think you should be nervous about HN's playoff schedule. I don't know if, we made that video for flogfantasy.com, I think, about the worst playoff schedules. I don't exactly remember where we posted it, but if you can get an upgrade elsewhere at the same time, I wouldn't mind pivoting from HN to Bijan when Bijan has the best fantasy football playoff schedule of any running back you're going to find. Now, Kessler says 4-6, 10 TBBR. We have Hurts, HN, Barkley, Lamb, Chase, Waddle, Andrews. And then on the bench, Bijan, Rice, Downs, Hubbard, Dotson, Chandler. Any trade recommendations for a tight end? We just don't have a ton of depth. Yesterday literally could not have been any worse for us. I honestly don't think that you go through and trade for a tight end here. I don't think you can afford one. If you can send Rice for McBride, let's go do it. I just would be surprised if you can pull it off. I mean, let's try, but yeah, I mean, if you could send one of those deeper guys, go for it. In reality, you're probably just going to be streaming tight ends from now on. And I would drop Dotson to be able to pick up another tight end off waivers to go through and just play two based off matchups. Go back and forth with them. Now, Corey says 8-2, 10 TBBR. Traded Hal, Connor, McBride for Dak, Kyron, Waller. Rest of the team is Eckler, Jacobs, AJ Brown, Allen, Johnson, Laporta. Any thoughts? Hal to Dak, give me Dak. Connor to Kyron, up to you. McBride to Waller, give me McBride. 8-2, I understand where you're coming from, but still, what's McBride coming back to, you know? So we have Laporta, so I think it's a fine move to make. So yeah, I like the team. I like the trade. If you didn't have Laporta, though, I think it would have been much tougher to justify. Now, Alex says 6-4, 10 TBBR, 3 wide receivers and a flex. We have Fields, Bijan, Pacheco, Diggs, Brown, Wilson, Hollywood, Ferguson, McKinnon, Algier, Otten. Deadlines this week. Any moves? It's 4 viable wide receivers. It's a league where we can start up to 4 wide receivers from a week-to-week perspective, so we want it. Honestly, no. I think you're chilling as is. Really like the team, my friend. I think the only thing that there is to do is just to continue to work the waiver wire over the next few weeks. I think you put yourself in a great spot. Hunter says 12-team PPR. We have Lamar, Bijan, Madison, Ford, Lamb, Ridley, Addison, Hollywood, Schultz. Should we stick as is or should we make an upgrade? I mean, I'd love to upgrade our running back 2 slot, right? But the question is, how do we do so? I mean, right now, we don't really have a wide receiver 2, a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 that has a ton of value. I mean, if you could sell Alexander Madison and Jordan Addison and pivot over to a running back that we're super excited about in the long term, let's do it. In reality, probably much easier said than done. In reality, probably not going to be able to make that move. Okay, Red says 10-team BBR 6 and 4, 4 bench spots. Lamar, Hall, Bijan, Barkley, Gibbs, Singletary, Taylor. Chase, Olave, Deontay. Any moves, you man? Appreciate you, my friend. I think if it's a league where you only have 4 bench spots and a 10-team format, waiver wire options are going to be nuts. So I would love to go through and I'd love to see if we can take, say, Saquon Barkley and Jamar Chase and pivot over to a wide receiver that's inside the top 3 there. I mean, if you wanted to go actually, say, Devin Singletary and Jamar Chase to stay within like the Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Stephon Diggs, the A.J. Brown range, I think you could look to do that. Or if you wanted to go like Olave and Breece Hall to try to get up to that range, that's another move that you could look to make. Because with that open Rosh spot, we're going to be able to pick up someone off waivers that we like as well. Austin says traded Deontay McBride for Chase after the injury. I like the deal. I like the deal. Elite says, do we trade Evans for Puka? I think that they are very close in the same tier, and it's going to be up to you. I will say that Puka should have a better playoff schedule. Saw says, full BBR CMC Walker. Which for the flex, Swift or Devonta Smith? Tough matchup for these guys going up against KC. Tough defense overall. I will take Swift, though. Dan says, full BBR 12-team league, 5 and 5. We have Allen, Bijan, Pollard, AJ, Addison, Hogginson, Cook, Dotson, Watson. Deadlines in 3 days. Should we trade? Do we start Watson or Dotson? Ooh, Watson has been up there at the very top of this Packers team in targets when he's healthy. But the issue is, 1, he can't really stay healthy. And 2, he doesn't do anything with said targets. But assuming Curtis Samuel plays, I'm just going to go ahead and take Christian Watson. And then, no, I mean, I think you've already put yourself in a position where we're a little bit compromised with the depth of this team, where the primary thing that we're going to look to do is we're just going to go ahead and see if we can continue to work waivers and backfill our depth. So going forward, we're not having to ask ourselves if we're wanting to start Jahan Dotson. Wants to say Mason, 14-team app BBR. We have Mahomes, Godwin, JSN, Swift, Brian, Kelsey, Charbonnet, London, Pierce, Odell. Should we trade Higgins and Pittman for A.J. Brown? So 14-team format's going to be a little bit tougher to get away with this, with obviously the depth mattering a little bit more. However, with that being said, this is a very good team. With that being said, A.J. Brown is A.J. Brown. He's already through his bye at the same time. Whereas obviously that's not the case with Pittman. Higgins is injured, and you have the Joe Burrow injury. So yes, I'm going to go ahead. I will take A.J. Brown here. Now, GoPro Dude says 10-team PBR. We have Hurts, Bijan, Eckler, Kincaid, Lamb, Thielen, Smith, Higgins, Amari, Addison, Watson. Was offered Thielen and Addison for Waddle. It was the best wide receiver we could get. If it is a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, I don't hate it just because it's a 10-team league. So I think we can do it if it's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league where the depth just simply doesn't matter. It's not like we're getting a massive, massive upgrade at wide receiver, though. TJ says 12-team PPR. I traded Herbert, Wilson, Chuba for Kupp, Lawrence, Ferguson. My other receivers are Moore, London, Rashee Rice. What are your thoughts? Herbert to Kupp, give me Kupp. Wilson to Lawrence, give me Wilson. Chuba to Ferguson, who cares? I think, honestly, it doesn't really come down to who we have at wide receiver. I think it more so comes down to who we have at quarterback and who's backfilling in for Justin Herbert. If you have another great option there, I think you can be excited. Charles says Smith, Kirk, Thielen, Hopkins. We got to pick two. I'm going to go Thielen and Devonta Smith, despite Thielen having a brutal matchup. Now, Marlowe says 12-team at BBR, Lamar, Lamb, Tank, Henry, Pollard, Schultz, Hollywood. And then on the bench, Flowers, Pickens, Hunt, Chandler, Kyler, Frymuth. Should we trade for Kincaid? 5-5 competitive league. I mean, I would like to trade for Kincaid if we can here. I mean, the question is, what does that deal look like? I mean, I think the expendable asset that we have is Kyler Murray if we have Lamar Jackson at the same time. But my thing is, I probably would prefer to see if we can get a little bit of a better player here than just Kincaid if we were selling Kyler. I mean, I'd probably go like Kyler and Schultz and see if we can get to Hawkinson. Maybe settle for Kincaid if we can't get Hawk. Here for the meme says, Tinty Dynasty. Is a late first for Derrick Henry too much? We have Tyreek, Garrett, Amon-Ra, Kittle, Dak, Connor, Najee, Brian Robinson trying to win. If it is a one quarterback format, you will regret the deal in the offseason. But if you win, it's worth it. If it is a super flex league and it's only 10 teams where it's going to be a top 10 pick minimum, you will hate yourself for it. So I would say no in general, but of course, I'm never going to tell someone to make a trade, not make a trade that would win them their league. If you think it's going to win your league, go. I would not do it. I would never do it on my own team. Ryan says 12-team BBR and 5-5. Saquon and Olave for Jacobs and Hollywood. Given the Giants' offense schedule rest of season, Saquon worries me. 100% understand that. You're downgrading a wide receiver. It's not like the Raiders' offense is great. I don't love it in a full PBR format where at least Saquon's going to have the receiving usage. You can do it if you want. Just don't love it. 44 SMU. Always happy to see you, even though we always say SMU and it's MSU. But 7-3, lost Andrews. Kincaid owner wants either Waddle or Evans. Who do you prefer rest of season in the playoffs? We have Brown, Debo, Flowers. I would look to keep Waddle. I would look to sell Evans. If it's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, we have plenty of depth to go ahead and make that move as well. So I probably go ahead. I probably sell Mike Evans. For Dalton Kincaid there. Justin says 12-team at BBR. Lost Burrow. We have JT, Ramondre, Achane, Pollard, Keaton, AJ Brown, Puka, Tank, DJ, and Baker. Traded Pollard and Puka for Herbert and Singletary. Was this a good move? So Pollard to Singletary was a downgrade. Puka to Herbert, I think you make a strong argument for it. I don't love the trade. I'm completely fine with it. Yeah, I don't love it. I'm fine with it. I would have preferred trying to squeeze out a little more value, though. James says, Mahomes, Waddle, Thielen, CMC, JT, Hawkinson, Walker. And then on the bench, Sutton, Kincaid, Warren, Spears, Logan Thomas. No one wants Kincaid. Should we stay put or trade for a better flex? Full PBR tied for second. Walker for who, if so? So essentially, should we go through and should we look to sell Kenneth Walker? If it is a full PPR format, yes, I would like to pivot from Kenneth Walker to a running back that's going to catch the ball. So if it's a full PPR format where we're chasing a running back that's going to have some receiving volume, then I would sell Walker for a better flex. I would love to package Walker and Kincaid, even though you're saying that we can't really get anything for Kincaid. I'd love to go up and get a running back in like the Jonathan Taylor range, like the Alvin Kamara range, the Jahmyr Gibbs range. I am as bad, says traded Lawrence Gabe Davis for Burrow just before my league mates tell me I was the one who got fleeced. Oh, I would, if you would have done this before the game yesterday, I would have loved it, my friend. I would have loved it. I'm sorry for you though. Isaiah says Tua Waddle for Allen Olave. Miami, bad play. I'm going to go Allen and Olave almost regardless, given the upside that we have rushing the ball with Allen. Lutima says 10-team full BBR, double flex, 5-5. Kyler, Puka, AJ, Etienne, Achant, Hawkinson, Ford, McBride, Keaton, Charbonnet, Hopkins, Lockett, JSN, Johnston. Thoughts on sending TJ in another piece for an upgrade at running back or anywhere? So we'd have McBride filling in. If you have McBride filling in, I mean, we are viable at tight end. We don't have great flex options here. So, I mean, if you wanted to send TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Hopkins and pivot over to like a low-end wide receiver one that we're really excited about, you can go for it. I don't necessarily know if running backs what we're going to be focusing in on because running backs is going to cost us a lot more. I think it would probably be wide receiver, and it's something you can look to do. I just don't want to say like, oh yeah, great idea, you have to do it. I think it really comes down to the price that you're going to get. If you get a great price, go for it. Now, Victor says 6-4, 12-team full PPR. Tua, Kyler, Bijan, Jones, Kyron, Lamb, Diggs, Wilson, Moore, Scary, Terry. We had Andrews, but had to get Evan Ingram, Moore, Terry for Kamara. What do you think? 12-team league, depth's going to matter a tiny bit more. Any trades need a flex this week between Terry, Wilson, DJ. This is the issue, right? I mean, we just stacked so many of these wide receivers that, like, what are we doing with these guys? Terry, Wilson, DJ. We're just going to have to be pulling our hair out, trying to figure out who to flex every single week. Probably go Wilson. But in reality, I think I would have way preferred not trading Kamara for 3 pieces in return. I would love to sell one of these wide receivers and get an upgrade elsewhere. Connor says Chase for Etienne. I'm going to go Etienne. Etienne Ford for Chase Kyron. I'm going to go the Etienne side. Daniel says 8-team quarter point PBR. Lost Burrow, Andrews, 7-3. We have Stroud filling in. We're fine. Chase, AJ Brown, Terry. So we lost Burrow and we have Chase. Terry, Etienne, Swift, Cook. And then on the bench, Gabe Davis, Freiermuth, Javonte Pierce, Khalil Herbert, Rashee Rice, any moves. You're fortunate that it's an 8-team league. 8-team league, we'll be able to find easier options off waivers, right? So, I mean, if you wanted to go out there and if you wanted to work the waiver wire to pick up an extra tight ends and play the matchups between Pat Freiermuth and another guy, then go for it. Another guy that looks to be expendable on your team here. I mean, you do have Travis Etienne and DeAndre Swift already through their respective buys. So, if you really wanted to go ahead and say, sell Travis Etienne, sell Javonte Williams for a viable tight ends, see even go get to the Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta range, you could do that. Jeremy says 12-team full BBR 4-6. Dobbs, Hall, Achane, Kamara, Olave, Higgins, Rice, Jefferson, Boyd, McBride, Dowdle. Any move/trade value for Justin Jefferson? I would say no, you are wanting to keep Jefferson now, my friend. I mean, to go through and to roster Justin Jefferson over the past 5 weeks, to trade him right when he comes back, His value really hasn't recovered. I mean, he's sitting about wide receiver 10 in the community rankings. If you could sell Jefferson for like a Amon-Ra St. Brown, then hell yeah, let's do it. If you can pivot from Jefferson to St. Brown, go for it. Yeah, I mean, I would love that. Now, Starry says 12-team PPR Superflex Dynasty, 8-2. We have Burrow and Stroud. Got offered Lamar Lawrence in 2 seconds for Burrow and Stroud. Burrow over Lawrence. Stroud versus Lamar. Give me Stroud rest of season, but obviously we're looking to contend here. Instead of the seconds, if you can get a second and a first, I think it's much more compelling. It's a move that if you do not win this year, you'll be kicking yourself in the offseason. Now, Pedro says start Kyler, Dobbs, or Justin Fields. It's a PPR 4-point passing touchdown league. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Kyler Murray, but I do think that all of them are viable. Creed Be Fit says rank Goff, Dobbs, Stroud rest of season. I'm going to go Stroud, Goff, then Dobbs. Goff and Dobbs are really close, though, if it's a 4-point passing touchdown format where we care about rushing upside. Also, looking to potentially move Stephon or Eckler to help fill in the flex spots. We have Amon-Ra, CMC, JT, and Kyron as well. Sit on your hands. You're overthinking it. I mean, if you wanted to go through and if you want to sell one of the quarterbacks for a viable flex play, let's do it, right? But to go through and, I mean, if we have Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra, then Eckler, CMC, JT, Kyron, we have 6 viable guys. All we're having to do is wait till we get through the bye weeks and wait till we get Kyron back in. It's going to take one more week. When it says 10-team winning record, Jacobs for Bijan, love you. Appreciate you, my friend. We will go Bijan, but I am an idiot. So I would say ignore me. Probably listen to community rankings, and the community rankings do have Jacobs over Bijan. Max says, trade DJ Moore for Pollard, happy PR. I would rather have Pollard over DJ Moore. Joe says, Howell, Lawrence, White, Etienne, Mostert, Kyler, Keaton, Kupp, Allen, Evans, Terry, Deontay, Kelsey, Pittman. Trade deadline, 6-4, double flex. Any moves, traded McBride for Mostert. If we have Kelsey, great move on that front. You just picked up McBride off waivers. Honestly, no. I think you're chilling as is. If you really want to see if we could sell like Terry McLaurin and Sam Howell and go get an upgraded quarterback, that could be something we look for. Now, drafted Joe Montana coming out saying, help settle this debate. How many drops are allowed in a week? I'm in an IDP league with only 3 allowed, and it's aggravating. I would say unlimited. What would be the reasoning of capping 3 moves a week? And maybe I'm blanking on something, but what would be the reasoning behind that? Super Tight says, great content. We have Fields and Dobbs this weekend. Who sits? Thank you. Thank you, my friend. I will play Justin Fields over Joshua Dobbs, given Fields having a little more rushing upside, but I'm definitely rooting for Joshua Dobbs. Fear says, so what's going on this year? We have Jefferson, bought low on Chase, lost both their quarterbacks. What's their outlook for you rest of season? I'm going to go Jefferson, mid wide receiver 1, Chase, low end wide receiver 1. Assuming that Jefferson is back and healthy, I'm going to go Jefferson, mid wide receiver 1, Chase, low end. Josu says, 7-3, 12-team PPR double flex, lost Burrow. We have Ford, Montgomery, Amon-Ra Smith, Keenan Ayuk, Noah Brown, Dobbs, Laporta, Spears. Picked up Stafford. Should we trade for a quarterback? Was offered Fields and Myers for Devonta Smith. A very reasonable price point if you wanted to go through and make that trade. I would say we don't necessarily have a ton of depth here to be trading for a quarterback in general. So I'd be a little bit hesitant about it. But if you were going to do it, I think that this is a very fair price point in which you can. Yeah, it's a very fair price point where you can make this move if you want, my friend. And yeah, the thing is, it also, if you have like Purdy on the waiver wire, then maybe we say, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's hold as is. But if you don't have 2 guys that we can go back and forth with a matchup sub, maybe you just want to go through and trade for one. Andrew says 12-team PBR, 6-2. We have Hurts, White, Pacheco, Hill, Brown, Andrews, Pittman, Singletary, Rice, Samuel, Latavius, Frymuth. Should we look to trade for a tight end or just stream? Thanks. Love the content. Appreciate you, my friend. If we're looking at how this lineup is set, it's not like we have a ton of depth down here on the bench that we can sell. Really, we're not going to get someone for Rashee Rice that we're excited about. I mean, if you want to sell Rashee Rice for Trey McBride, if you can pull it off, go for it. I just assume that it's probably not possible, right? So I think we're probably going to stream. And it is nice having Pat Frymuth there. We can go back and forth with Frymuth and the other guy. Now, Bruv says 12-team BBR double flex. What moves should we look at? We have Mahomes, Pollard, Kyron, A.J. Brown, Wilson, London, Kelsey, and Schultz. I mean, I'd love to see if we can approach that Mark Andrews team and see what we could do to send them Dalton Schultz and Kyron Williams to get an elite level running back, or Dalton Schultz and just go get a viable flex right now, especially if it's a double flex league. It's not like this team's loaded up with depth, so I don't even think you need to go through and trade for an upgrade at running back wide receiver, but maybe just another startable guy. Anthony says, Mason, BBR for the flex, Ford, Collins, or Singletary. I'm going to go with Singletary, assuming we have no Pierce. Max says trade Jacobs and Olave for JT and Puka in a half PPR format. I'm going to go with JT and Puka over Jacobs and Olave. Joseph says also lost Chubb this year and Mason. That is an incredible accomplishment, because the thing is, Chubb was going to crush as well. I got very lucky this year. I didn't draft a lot of Nick Chubb. I was worried at the beginning of the season because he looked like he was going to crush us. GoPro Dude says 10T BBR, Lamar, JT, Hunt, Khalil, Kyron, Diggs, Lamb, Waddle, Olave, Kyler, JSN, Andrews. Trying to get a Monra Goddard for Lamar. Big trade idea with the team. Allen, Gibbs, Swift, HN, AJ, Puka, Ridley, Addison, DJ. Any ideas? I mean, I would way rather have a Monra over Lamar here. I think that makes a ton of sense, especially if you do have Kyler. So I would offer Lamar for Amon-Ra Goddard. If they say no, go, okay, we'll just take Amon-Ra. You can keep Goddard. See what happens. And then I really like that idea of selling one of those quarterbacks, right? I mean, going over to the Allen team, I'm assuming we're not really going to be able to make a deal with them because they already have Josh Allen as is. If you wanted to make a trade with them, I mean, we could use an RB2. So if you really wanted to send them like Olave and see if we can get back HN, Swift, or Gibbs, let's go for it. But I would assume that they decline it. We can send the offer, though. Andres says, my receivers are AJ, Cup, Puka, Ridley, Downs, Higgins. Who should we look to trade away? You're not going to... I want to keep... I think Puka, Cup are great buy low candidates. AJ, I want to keep as a cornerstone asset. Maybe Higgins... And if we're going to look to sell him, we probably package him with White if it's a non-PBR format, so we can get upgrade at running back. Chris says, Chase owner, do we do Smith and Kirk for Chase Olave? I would rather have Chase Olave over Smith and Kirk. Shelby says, have PBR 8-1. We'd trade DJ Moore, Waddle, Pacheco for McBride, Amon-Ra, JT. Thanks, Doggy. Appreciate you, my friend. JT over Pacheco, Amon-Ra over Waddle. Paying DJ Moore to get it done. So, yeah, we're going to go Amon-Ra and JT. They're not even close. Planet says Kyler, Jacobs, JT, Chase, Amari, Collins, Ford, Hawkinson, Waddle, JSN, Spears, Rice, Dobbs, Noah Brown. We're in my team this week. Any moves? A brutal spot for the Chase injury. I mean, Chase injury, Deshaun injury. It's not like we have a ton of depth here. Honestly, no. I think we just have to continue course. I will say at this point, I think Waddle's your wide receiver 2 over Amari Cooper. Let's make sure that we're starting Waddle every single week. We can go for it. I know it's like a very boring advice and there's not much to it. But Kyler Murray is someone that we can start every single week. So if you wanted to go and approach the Joe Burrow owner and go, hey, will you give me something viable for Joshua Dobbs? See if we can sell Amari Cooper and Joshua Dobbs and go get a wide receiver we're excited about. Now, Youssef says, 10-team, have BBR. Lineup is Tua, Henry, Jones, Tyreek, Cup, Kittle, Evans. And then on the bench, we have Stroud, Brian Robinson, Ridley, Hopkins. Any moves to make before the deadline? And should we flex Brian Robinson if Gibson is out? Yes, If it's at PBR format, Evans going up against a San Fran, I would make that move. Brian Robinson, great matchup. And boring answer, but yeah, if we can sell Aaron Jones and CJ Stroud and go get an elite level running back, go pivot over to like Jonathan Taylor, go get Travis Etienne, I think it make a lot of sense, right? I mean, we have two that we can start every single week. I mean, there are multiple teams in your league that are probably needing a quarterback right now. So, I mean, that's probably the move I'd look to make. Now, Jalen says 5-5, 10-team league. We have Burrow, Walker, Swift, Jacobs, Chase, Diggs, Ayuk, Watson, JSN, Boyd, Ferguson, Goddard. Barreling the playoffs. Am I accepting Walker for Stroud, but any advice? Full BBR format to be fine selling Walker for Stroud. And then as is, we just got to stay in the mix. We just got to keep on going through and making waiver wire moves, right? I mean, this was not only a team that lost Burrow, but also we had the Cincinnati stack, so it's hurting us elsewhere as well. We don't really have the depth to get out of Chase to get to another wide receiver in the top 5 at this point. So then we go through, we trade for Stroud, and then we're probably working the waiver wire afterwards. Callie Jackson Sub Mason just traded Hurts, Etienne, Madison for Lamar, Eckler, Montgomery. 6-4, traded for Eckler for the playoff schedule. Also have HN. How do we do? So Etienne, Eckler, upgrade. Madison and Montgomery, upgrade. We pay Jalen Hurts to Lamar to get it done. I think it's a fine move. I mean, assuming that it's a full BBR format, of course, where we are excited about Austin Eckler, of course. Eddie says 10T BBR 8-2. We have Hurts, Eckler, Jacob, Swift, Mostert, Keenan, Kupp, Evans, Puka, Hoggins, and Goddard. What are your thoughts and what moves should we try to make? Great team. I mean, if it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, then you have plenty of depth here to go through and see if we can sell like Mike Evans and Josh Jacobs and get to a running back like Jonathan Taylor, get to a running back like Travis Etienne. We're not as concerned about the overall offense that you have with Jacobs. So I think that's a move that we can make with this being a 10-team league. Just Sherman says with Musgrave or Mayer to replace Andrews. I'm going to go with Michael Mayer and hope that he continues to expand his role. I think Mayer's the better player. Peter says, Superflex Dynasty competing team. Do we trade Burrow for Kyler straight up? No, I think it's a deal that you would just hate yourself for in the offseason. I understand the thought process. I think you need some extra juice on top of it. Samuel says, Chandler and Kyron for Pollard. Pollard or Kyron rest of season. I think Pollard's in a better offense. I'm going to go Pollard. I hate that I've turned into like the Pollard guy at this point, but I mean, I literally didn't draft this guy at all this year. I thought he was overdrafted where he went. But I mean, it is a great Dallas Cowboys offense. Johnny says, how are we feeling on Chase, trade away or hold? What I would look to do with Chase is, if possible, if you can take Jamar Chase and package him with like another wide receiver 2 like Hollywood Brown and pivot over and get to a different wide receiver inside the top 5, get to like a Stephon Diggs player, that's what I would look to do. Eric says 3 receiver single flex, full PPR. We have Hall, Mixon, Tyreek, Olave, Amari, Dell. Should we trade Hall, Amari, Dell for Eckler and Deontay? Dell to Deontay, slide downgrade. Hall and Amari to Eckler, full BBR format. Yes, sir. I understand depth's going to matter a little bit more in this league. I think we go out there and make the pay up for an elite option in Eckler. Now, Syncrosity coming out saying, we have Lawrence, Lost Andrews, just traded Amon-Ra, Ford, Amari, Michael Wilson for Kincaid, Stroud, Pittman, JT. Was it a bad trade? Amon-Ra to JT, downgrade. Amari to Pittman, upgrade. Michael Wilson to Stroud, upgrade. Ford to Kincaid, upgrade. Don't love it, but under the circumstances that we were put in, I understand it, and I think you probably should have made it. Antonio says 12-team full BBR, 6-4. Stroud, Kyler, HN, Bijan, Foreman, Chandler, Lamb, Chase, Nico, Godwin, Deontay, Douglas, Dotson, Hawk, Musgrave. Was offered Pacheco, Puka, Ingram for Nico and Hawkinson. So Hawkinson to Ingram, downgrade. Nico to Puka, upgrade. We're getting Pacheco to do the deal. If you're looking at the running back room here, we have enough running back depth to go around. If this is a double flex format, I'm fine making this move, especially with Jefferson coming back into Minnesota. If it is a single flex league, I think you probably want to keep the best player in TJ Hawkinson now. If it's a single flex league, probably want to hold on to the top end tight ends. Ryan says 14-team BBR just outside of the playoffs. We have Tyreek, AJ Brown, Dell, Downs, Jefferson. You're going to be in a great spot. Taysom, Noah Gray. Thinking about trading Jefferson for Laporta. I crazy. You are insane. Maybe you should have done this 5 weeks ago, right? But now that you've waited all this time for Jefferson to come back in, you're going to be just fine here. I know 14-team league will be tougher to find a tight end off waivers, but we can still try before we make that trade. Chase says, single flex, Diggs, St. Brown, Evans, Samuel, Swift, Jacobs, Hall, Mostert, and Joku Komet. We lost Burrow and Cousins, riding with Sam out. Thanks as always. Any potential trade-ups? Appreciate you, my friend. Single flex league, the quarterback's going to matter a little bit more. We don't really have a ton of depth here either. I mean, if you wanted to go through and see if we can pivot from like Mostert to CJ Stroud, let's do it. Or like if you wanted to see if we can sell Josh Jacobs or Breece Hall and go through and get maybe if we can sell any of our top running backs, any running back we have, and get back Josh Allen, get back Patrick Mahomes, get back Jalen Hurts, I think that that's a move that we can afford to make and honestly probably want to. I would like to tell you to sell like Mostert for CJ Stroud. I just don't think anybody's buying Mostert now. Ramon says, what's Prescott's value worth wide receiver 2? I'd say, yeah, Dak, you can probably get a mid-high and wide receiver 2 if you're trading with the Burrow team. Malik says, 10-team at BBR, we got to pick 2. Start 1 and 2 flex. Debo, Hollywood, and Rashee Rice. So, I mean, I'm assuming that we're picking 2, right? We're going to go with Hollywood and Debo Samuel. What's interesting, though, is with Rashee Rice, does kind of feel like a blow-up spot. You got a rookie wide receiver coming out of a bye, and the Eagles have allowed the most points to opposing wide receivers this year. Bruv says Aaron Jones and Ayuk or Pollard and DJ Moore rest of season. Very close, and it's up to you. Can everybody spam the chat? Would you rather have Aaron Jones and Brandon Ayuk or Tony Pollard and DJ Moore? Please spam the chat. Let me know what side. Anthony says 12-team BBR 8-2. We have Mahomes, Keenan, Waddle, Bijan, Montgomery, Hockenson, Godwin, Watson, Dobbs. Should we trade Waddle, Hockenson, and Dobbs for Kelsey? Big fan. Watch all the videos. Appreciate you so much, my friend. I'd say if we have Mahomes, who really cares about Dobbs here? Yes, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to overpay for Kelsey under the assumption this is a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. I think it does make sense to get that Mahomes-Kelsey stack. Okay, we got Jones, Pollard, Jones, Pollard, Jones, Pollard. So it does look like that trade split 50-50, my friend. James says, Javonte over Walker rest of season. Full BBR, am I crazy? I think, honestly, you're probably not crazy. If you look at the Kenneth Walker schedule, if you wanted to make that play, my man, I'm not going to fault you for it. Timeout Spoon says, Mason, I do 12-team non-BBR. We got to start 3. Connor, Hunt, Rashad, Dylan, Hollywood, Gabe Davis, Quentin Johnson. Appreciate you, Mason. Thanks. Thank you. Non-BBR format, way less excited about Rashad White. We still probably have to start Rashad White, though. We're probably going to go White, Connor, and Hollywood. I mean, if you look at Arizona right now, it should actually be a high-scoring game with the Texans. Randy says 10-team at BBR 6-4. We have Fields, Gibbs, Eckler, Pacheco, Keenan, Moore, Ingram. And then on the bench, Hopkins, JSN, Hollywood, Cooks, Purdy. Pacheco's the flex. Leave him be or switch him for someone on the bench. So, I mean, if we're looking at Pacheco, it is a tough matchup going up against Philly. This is a half PBR format, not a full PBR league. So it's not like we have to make a swap with a wide receiver here. If we were to swap anybody, it would be Hollywood Brown in for him. And if I'm looking at Hollywood Brown or Isaiah Pacheco in our flex rankings this week, my friend, I mean, currently we have Hollywood Brown at 44 and we have Isaiah Pacheco at 32. So I do think we keep it how you have it, my friend. But B-Stub says 12-team 8-2 PBR, 2 receiver single flex. We have Lamar, Tyreek, Chase, Etienne, White, McBride, Olave. On the bench, Rice, Johnson, Russ, Down, Spears. What do we think of the team and what moves should we make for the playoffs? I think it's a really strong team without setup. Obviously, the Chase injury is hitting us. I mean, I would love to go through and I'd love to say, okay, well, yeah, let's go ahead and let's sell Chase and Downs and get to St. Brown, get to A.J. Brown, get to Stephon Diggs. And I would try that move if you can. Just the reality of the situation is you're probably not going to be able to. I think Rashad White is a sell-high candidate in a non-PBR format, but in a full PBR league, I think we want to keep him on this roster. So honestly, great team, great construction. The Chase injury is going to give us a significant hit. Andrew's injury is going to hit Lamar as well. If you could pivot from Chase to one of those other guys by adding in a depth option on the bench, we'd probably go for it. But I just don't know if we have enough value to get it done. Now, Johnny says, Etienne Chase for CMC and more. or could maybe do Chase Addison for Tyreek. This is like a deal that I would love to do. Chase Addison for, I would rank these deals. Chase Addison for Tyreek, number one, love to do that. Second deal, ETN Chase for CMC Moore, and then Chase Addison for Lamb. If it is like a shallow format, making a move like that where you're adding a wide receiver to Jamar Chase to pivot over to that elite level option in Tyreek Hill, I think if you are trying to sell Jamar Chase, that's the way to go about it. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with us. I really, really appreciate you. Really hope that you have a great Monday night. I will be live tomorrow. We'll be giving you all the last minute injury updates. And of course, I'll be answering more questions tomorrow and Sunday morning. So I hope I get to see you there. Thank you again for everything. And if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, of course, you know you can find that link in the live chat description comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and a Russell Wilson special pick'em more than less than half a total yard, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you take advantage. But last question. B says, offered Waddle and Stevenson for Brees in an 8th. I'm going to go Brees in an 8th there, my friend. But thank you again. I really hope you all have a great weekend, and I really hope I get to see you out in the live stream either tomorrow or the next day.